Cześć, dzień dobry moi podcastowicze, z tej strony Wiktor Doktor, a to 283 odcinek podcastu BSS bez tajemnic. Dzisiaj zabieram Was w podróż do Gruzji. Tak, do Gruzji. To tam rodzi się nowa lokalizacja na centra typu BPO, SSC, czy też dla branży IT. Zresztą posłuchajcie sami. Good morning, good afternoon, my listeners. This is Victor Doctor, and this is BSS with No Secret podcast. Today, there is an episode with a special guest. My guest is Natia Parekhelashvili, representing Invest in Georgia. Welcome, Natia.
Hello, Victor. Thank you, first of all, having me as your guest at today's episode. I would say that this is really amazing platform enabling BSS community in Europe and beyond to get introduced with the latest industry insights. So I'm Natia Parekhelashvili, Senior Investor Relations Manager and Sector Lead for Business Services at Invest in Georgia, which is an FDI attraction arm of Enterprise Georgia, a state economic and business development agency. And for sure, the business services sector is one of key priority areas in which we are working to attract more investments and more global companies having presence on our market.
So before we go deeply into the subject of this business, of investments, of the BSS sector, I guess it would be great to get the feeling where Georgia is located, because maybe there are some people who are listening to this podcast who have no idea where Georgia is.
Okay, well, so Georgia is located in the middle of Europe and Asia at GMT+4 time zone, enabling business services providers to serve any client from Europe to Central Asia. In general, Georgia is in the Eastern European cluster and a nearshore destination for European market. However, we have a great examples of existing providers serving US market as well, because there are no working hour limitations, and companies in most cases are also setting up night shifts to serve clients beyond Europe.
Yeah, you are a beautiful country. A lot of people know your destination as a tourist destination, as a fantastic cuisine and fantastic culture which you have over there. But this is the reason of our call today is talking about some business relations. So what are the biggest cities where the business is growing in Georgia? Mm-hmm.
Yes, many people know about Georgia as a great place to visit with the amazing nature, stunning mountains, beautiful coastline, and the hospitality. But also the country has amazing people and the business-friendly environment, so companies can very easily enter the market, set up the teams, and meet their growth plans within the region and beyond. So key locations within the Georgia, of course, is first of all, the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, which is the main economic hub of the country with the inhabitants of 1.1 million, and followed by Batumi and Kutaisi, second and third largest cities of Georgia. So with the infrastructure, education institutions, and workforce agglomeration, Tbilisi, Kutaisi, and Batumi are the most attractive locations for business services delivery hubs. Those cities have well-connected infrastructure, including the broadband, including the international airports, fast and reliable network connectivity, real estate, enabling providers to work with traditional office models as well as implement work at home or hybrid models of operations.
So, of course, we will focus in a moment on the business support services, but what are the other industries which are very active in Georgia?
So our GDP structure is comprised with the good share of the tourism sector, of course, as well as manufacturing, construction. Financial sector is also quite large in Georgia, and of course, the service sector is growing really fast.
Okay, so now let's go to the main topic, which are the BSS, business support services area. So this industry, we have in here the outsourcing model, we've got here the shared services, but also IT, R&D, and many, many others. Let's focus on the human resources. for that industry. How does it look like? If you could describe in few words, what is the human potential of Georgia, maybe in those three main destinations, but if you would like to say it in general, then this is also fine. And if you could just input to that also this educational part, so how the universities level do look like. Some numbers are more than welcome.
So there are 64 higher educational institutions in Georgia, and on top of that, 66 vet schools. Over the past 5 years, for example, more than 90,000 students have graduated from the programs like business administration, law, social sciences, humanities, and STEM. So this is the potentially employable talent pool for the business services sector. On top of that, we have more than 150 language schools and also some specialized high schools in particular foreign languages. For instance, in key cities of Georgia, there are 14 German schools located. And in overall, I would say that market is quite unsaturated and scale up and entry is quite easy for BSS companies. We have examples, for instance, when foreign companies were able to onboard like 15 or 100 employees in just 1 or 2 weeks time frame. And of course, all this leads to the low attrition rate, somewhere in the range of 10 to 20% in this sector.
Really, in 1-2 weeks, 100 employees can be employed.
Yes, this is real examples what we heard from our investors.
Jesus, this is amazing, I must say, because I am used that the recruitment processes usually last for like months and not 1-2 weeks. 100 people? I would love to have something like that in here.
Yes, depending, of course, the functions and specialties what those professionals have. In contact center and voice services, yes, this is definitely real. And considering the massive labor shortages across the region, especially in multilingual contact services, this is really great advantage for Georgia to benefit from.
So I understand that, first of all, there are people who are willing to work within that industry. But the second thing, which is very important for some international players when they come and look for the new site to open their operation centers, are also the costs of such employees. How does the level of employees, of the salaries for the employees looks like in Georgia?
Definitely cost competitiveness is one of the key advantages Georgia offers to investors, but not limited to this, because while forming teams in Georgia, companies can really add value to their operations. In the business services sector, for instance, in contact center services, monthly gross salaries, fixed salaries vary between $400 to $500. In professional services and back office processes such as finance and accounting, HR, this is kind of a similar $500 per month average. And of course, these salaries vary according to the experience and complexity of functions as well as seniority level. In terms of ICT, for example, for desktop support or testing or for entry-level junior developer, salaries also start from $500 and vary according to the seniority level and the functions, also the programming languages and frameworks being used. So it's really interesting that recently the Everest Group published a report from their location spotlight series, and Georgia was assessed as emerging CE location leveraged for the multilingual business process and ICT services delivery with a really favorable operating environment and offering around 50 to 80% of cost savings compared to the established locations across the Europe.
And talking about the languages, you mentioned already German schools, which you have, and I'm more than sure that English is a must in here. What other languages are the most common to be used in the business services in Georgia?
So English, as mentioned, is a must at any higher educational institution or high school. And also lots of people here know Russian language, followed by German language, and some other widespread European languages are also, of course, available, like French, Spanish, Italian. Also, Turkish is quite widespread, and even some more rare languages can be found in the centers which operate in Georgia. For example, Dutch or Greek or other some Asian languages too.
Okay, thank you for that. So I guess we covered this element which we can describe as human. So now we need to put this human into some offices. I realize that the year 2020 is making us to work remotely in most parts of our world. But in the normal world, the operation centers do look for the offices. How does the office market in this for the purposes of the BSS industry look like in Georgia?
Yes, this is really important point while selecting a new location for new delivery site. I would say crucial. So Tbilisi, as mentioned, is the main economic hub of Georgia, and so has the main concentration and largest supply of the modern office spaces. Currently, around 200,000 square meters leasable area across all classes, and it's expected that at the end of 2020, this office stock will increase with the 26%. Of course, Batumi and Kutaisi also have supply of office spaces, mostly concentrated with the semi-commercial or semi-office buildings, as well as standalone buildings, where it's possible to operate delivery sites or owner-occupied properties. And leasable area and total office stock, for instance, in Batumi is around 70,000 square meter, and in Kutaisi, 103,000 square meter. As for the prices, I would say that in regional cities, prices are around 40% lower than in Kutaisi.
Oh, this is significant difference.
Tbilisi, yes.
Good. Okay, so we've got people, we've got offices, and now something what I experienced within the last 20 years around Europe, and not only in here, that once the new investor is coming, one of the first things they are asking are what kind of benefits can we get if we decide to set up an operation center in your country. So I guess that you have also some kind of attractive benefits which such new investors can count on. What is in the portfolio of Invest in Georgia?
So first of all, it was to be mentioned that Georgia is a place where the companies can spend the very little time on paperwork while registering a business, because we are number 7 in the world according to the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business, and it's really straightforward and simple to have relations with the government agencies. And here we are, Enterprise Georgia and Invest in Georgia, as a one-stop shop and initial contact point for foreign investors, providing support to them before, during, and after investment process. Regarding the financial and fiscal incentives available to investors, I would name the tax incentives for ICT sector. For instance, we already have the virtual zone entity status within our tax code, which means that companies exporting ICT services from Georgia can get a profit tax exemption, and government has just introduced a new fresh incentive, which means that companies can also get the status of the international company, and ICT sector is included in it. It means that with the international company status, companies are able to reduce their profit and personal income taxes to 5%. Regarding other incentives, for instance, within the Enterprise Georgia, we can provide support to foreign investors, for instance, with the training financing and other tailor-made tools and solutions based on the projects.
So quite a wide portfolio, I would say. Okay, Natia, so let's now move to concrete examples. So we've got people, we've got offices where to put those people, we've got the incentives. Who actually already is present in Georgia? What kind of organizations decided to start and work from your country?
This is also a really important point, to have success stories of companies already having this type of operations here, because it's more easy for new coming investors to see that someone is already doing this type of business in particular country, because as of now, Georgia is the location which is really new on global business services delivery map. But so far, we have a great success stories to share. For instance, we have here global BPO provider Majoral, formerly named as Arvato, also Evolution from Sweden, and some other small and medium-sized companies like CMX Solutions, Aseco, Allmight, Flatrock Technology, and more. And very prominent Georgian companies also have presence on market who provide both multilingual contact center services as well as IT, engineering, and digital services to foreign clients. Also, it's important to note that we do have providers of professional services, international companies like Big Four, BDO, Nexia, and others, and their headcount is kind of quite promising, for instance, from 100 to 200. And all these companies offer like functions like finance and accounting services, HR, and other back office processes. And we also have success stories of more niche services, for instance, architecture, design, and engineering services, functions like CAD designing and rendering, drafting, and we have a US-based company based for operating in Georgia and serving foreign clients, especially US clients from Tbilisi office. And so this is the main concentration and services what existing players already provide from Georgia.
So IT, customer operations, and those quite special, like this design things and
engineering.
So on. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's important to have a variety of the services, because then it looks like your country can be chosen by different types of operation centers who are willing to grow. And currently, if we look at the way how the operation centers are growing worldwide, they do look for the new destinations. As you mentioned, Georgia is quite new destination on the global map. And I still remember how it was with Poland about 20 years ago, when it was the very, very beginning. And then suddenly it looked up, it grew, and it still is growing, but not as dynamic as it was. So I keep my fingers crossed actually for the similar growth of Georgia.
Thank you very much. This is definitely the area in which lots of developments will be happening, especially within the upcoming 5 years period. And I really hope to see more global companies having presence and expanding their footprint to our market.
So let's now jump into your yard, okay, to your office as the Invest in Georgia or wider Enterprise Georgia. What are the main roles of your agency? How do you normally work and support the investors from the BSS industry who would like to set up their office or get familiar with the business environment within Georgia?
Enterprise Georgia itself is a state economic development agency which unites different directions, for instance, export promotion as well as support to local small and medium businesses with the financial support mechanisms, and of course the Invest in Georgia FDI attraction arm of the agency. So for business services investors and for any investors, what we are offering is the support during the initial assessment of the country with the all necessary information related to talent pool, to costs and other metrics. And of course, the further processes like site visits arrangement and initiation of the cooperation with the local counterparts and continuous collaboration in the process of launching operations within the marketing at the point of launching a hub in Georgia, as well as the constant support while reinvestment and finding a new attractive locations within the country to expand operations. And of course, we are also working very hard to increase overall awareness about Georgia as a country, as an attractive destination through direct and indirect marketing remedies.
Yeah, and this is quite visible because I have already identified that you are cooperating with Deutsche Outsourcing Verband, who have prepared the outsourcing destination guide for Georgia recently. Also, if I'm not wrong, within your partnerships, which you already have created, is the IAOP from United States, and if I'm not wrong, Emerging Europe Alliance from UK. Are there any other organizations who you are cooperating, especially in this BSS area?
So this year we had a really successful collaboration with the Deutsche Outsourcing Verband, German Outsourcing Association, and in this summer the Outsourcing Destination Guide Georgia was issued, and which is available at the portal of outsourcing destinations as well as at our website at investingeorgia.org. And we are also members of IOP, as you mentioned, the Global Outsourcing Association, and also some other platforms like Contact Center World, and also Georgia appeared on the Location Spotlight series reports of Everest Group as a new interesting location for global business service companies to consider. And we are constantly trying to work in this direction. We recently, for instance, hosted a webinar together with the Shared Services and Outsourcing Week about the Georgia's case study. And also the information about Georgia, about the costs of operations, about the talent pool can be generated on the platforms like FDI Benchmark by FDI Intelligence from Financial Times, as well as the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network CityQ platform.
So it looks like you already talked to the most important BSS organizations in the world.
Yes, and we are always committed to expand this type of network of collaborations, because it's really important and crucial for us to spread the word about Georgia, that it's a really great place for global companies from around the world to consider as the service delivery hub.
I really do keep my fingers crossed for that, because to be honest, it looks like you are very much aware of who is who in this BSS world in Europe and also worldwide. All the names which you mentioned, like IAOP or SSON or Deutsche Outsourcing Verband, not mentioning the FDI, are absolutely the key organizations who should be in the close, let's say, relations if you want to share the best of the ideas, the best of information which you have for the BSS players worldwide. How big is your team? Is it just you, or there are more people who are taking care about the investors representing BSS industries?
Within our investment attraction team, each key sector has its sector manager, who is responsible to coordinate our projects and cases. And according to the complexity of the tasks and projects, of course, we form the cross-sectoral teams, and 2 or 3 people from the team are involved in specific projects and investor cases.
Okay, Natia, we are just getting close to the end of our talk today, but if you could just mention in 3 reasons why to focus on Georgia, why to invest in Georgia, what those 3 elements would be.
So first of all, location again, flexible time zone, and the country's proximity to the top source markets, and also the simplicity of business operations running, and the environment in overall what investors can find here, coupled with the association agreement also, which we have with European Union, ensuring the legislation alignment. And the second key reason to consider Georgia as a place to invest in, of course, the people, like place where investors can find the right people to form the teams and productively meet the needs of their clients. And third but not least, also the cost. In overall, the cost competitiveness, what Georgia can offer to BSS companies from all over the world to consider at their next hub.
So it looks like Georgia is growing on the map of the potential BSS destinations of Europe. And I hope you will have a very, very successful story to collect interesting brands, big companies, to all at least three cities which you mentioned. So I guess this is it, what we will put in here. So let's put a full stop at the end of our talk. It was, Natia, a big pleasure to get familiar with this, what is happening in Georgia at the moment when it comes to growing the business attractiveness for the BSS sector. I will make sure to add to the description of this podcast all links which we have actually discussed today. So the outsourcing destination guide for Georgia, the links to Invest in Georgia agency. What else shall we add to this description?
Definitely there are some very useful resources to take a look if anyone wants to get introduced in more details about the what's happening in Georgia in this sector. For instance, along with the mentioned reports, we do have a study conducted by Deloitte about the BPO and shared services sector investment potential. Also, the recently published office market report by Colliers, and of course our website and links to the destination outsourcing guide Georgia. And if there is need for any further detailed information, of course anyone can get in touch with the Invest in Georgia, reach out to us via email or LinkedIn, and be sure that they will get the comprehensive answers and information on areas they are looking for to learn about Georgia and its potential in business services industry.
And the potential definitely is over there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natia. It was a pleasure to have you on my show. I look very much forward actually to come to Georgia. I've never been in your country, but I hear so often about so many good vibes, so many good, let's say, business perspectives which you offer to the international businesses that I really need to go there one day.
Definitely, you are more than welcome to visit our beautiful country, and of course I'm very much looking forward to meet you in person as well, either in Georgia or in Poland or in other occasions what will arise in the future.
I am more than sure that once this whole crazy COVID-19 things will finish, then we will have so many opportunities to meet each other, especially on the BSS events. Let's finish like that. Thank you very much, Natia. It was really a big pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you very much for this opportunity and have a nice day ahead.
I to już koniec na dziś. Dziękuję Wam serdecznie za Waszą uwagę i wspólnie spędzony czas. Zapraszam do stałej subskrypcji i wpadajcie częściej do BSS bez tajemnic. To tutaj codziennie nowa dawka ciekawostek, faktów, mitów i innej wiedzy ze świata nowoczesnych usług dla biznesu. Tymczasem na razie, cześć!